You're listening to Hooked on Startups, where every week you'll hear from some of the most talented, inspiring, and successful entrepreneurs who share their real-life stories, how they overcame challenges and failures, and how they mastered success. Get ready for some of the best business tips, tricks and tactics, and some frank, unscripted discussions. Here's your host, Matthew Sullivan.
We're just going to start.
Okay, cool.
No preamble, nothing planned.
Okay, I like it.
You know, so but JP, I do detect a slight is it a French accent maybe?
It actually is. And I do detect an accent of yours as well.
From Angleterre.
Yeah. Are you based there or are you
No. I live in I'm just north of Salt Lake City. So I used to live in Orange County, California, but I've been here for about sort of 8 or 9 years now. No, that's a lie. 7 or 8 years. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
And so great. So are you from France originally, or are you from sort of French Canadian, or
No. I used to call it real French.
Yes,
France. Yeah. I grew up in French Riviera, went to college in Paris, and then decided to go to business school in the US. That was a long time ago, as you can tell by my gray hair. Then graduated in New Hampshire from business school and made my way west. And I've been in the US for a long time.
Wonderful. And whereabouts are you based now?
Right now, based in New Mexico.
Oh, right.
Between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, if you know that area.
Yes. Well, I know. I've heard of Albuquerque only because it's this fantastic conglomeration of vowels and consonants that doesn't make any sense at all. But when you actually pronounce Albuquerque, it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's actually made it into a song by. There's a song of that name by Neil Young.
Yes, Neil not getting any younger.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me about Boomtime. So that's the company that you run, and it's a fantastic name, but what?
Thank you. So Boomtime. I joined Boomtime about a year ago as CEO. The company's been around for about 10 years, but it's had many lives, almost like a cat.
Yes.
But in this current iteration, we're basically a digital marketing agency with a twist. And the twist is that we still are developing our own proprietary software, which is a platform that we use to run our marketing campaigns and other aspects of our business. And that tool makes us, we think, better marketers because we're more consistent.
Yeah.
We're more, what we do is more repeatable. We generate a lot of analytics that live in our platform that we can look at to see what's working and what's not working. And it makes us way more efficient. And so we are using that platform to actually for ourselves, but also it has a ripple effect, which is that we can price our services at a level that is much cheaper than our competition and better suited to small and medium-sized businesses,
yes,
SMBs, which are our target market.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because there's so much. I mean, digital marketing has so many different layers, and I don't mean to sort of state the bleeding obvious here, but a couple of things that really many people are not aware of is just the level of I'm not sure if fraud is the right word, but the level of activity of non-humans, bots and other types of automated mechanisms that give you the feeling that your campaigns are actually running better than they are. So if you're running your own platforms, are you able to look through those types of events and see the true picture of how effective a campaign is, as opposed to what it seems to be?
Yeah, so our platform doesn't do that per se, but because it generates so much data and analytics, and we present the analytics in a way that makes sense to our clients, but also to ourselves, we can actually ferret out those kinds of things. Yes.
I mean, how big a problem is it? First of all, I mean, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, so I think, first a little bit of a disclaimer of sorts, but our clients tend to be, like the vast majority of our clients are B2B businesses. And I think that in this world of B2B businesses, because the numbers in terms of like your addressable markets for these types of clients and what they do. We're not talking about millions and millions of people, right? So like the B2C market. And I think what you're talking about is way more prevalent in the B2C space than in the B2B space. Just because, you don't save a lot when you have like a couple of thousand clients out there, reaching out to these clients or potential customers is not, you don't have to automate it to make it efficient. Yes. But in the B2C space, where you're talking to millions of potential consumers, then yes, it becomes really critical. I mean, there's a lot more of that going on because automation pays larger dividends, much larger dividends.
Wonderful. And again, the other issue that I think has sprung up relatively recently is this change in the Apple iOS, the operating systems, which is locking out a lot of the analytics that we used to be able to rely on. And again, I know that you're in the B2B environment, so that may not have had such an impact. But is that something that you're seeing impacts, or is that becoming problematic for you in any way?
Yeah, so there's all kinds of ways around it. So there are all kinds of tools out there. Unfortunately, some of them you have to pay for, but there's still a lot of free tools and a lot of really good tools for analytics out there that allow you to still get the kind of KPIs that you need to run your campaigns in your business. So we're not, at Boomtime, we're not really affected by that, neither are our clients. But again, yes, that could be, again, a little bit more prominent and more of a problem in the B2C space.
But B2B is a very different kettle of fish than B2C. I mean, as you mentioned, it's much more targeted. The messaging is very different. So what are the key differences that you would describe as a B2B marketer as opposed to a much more broadcast B2C marketer?
Yeah, so a B2B marketer, there's different, a lot of small and some really big differences. One of them that we talked about is the size of the addressable market, right? Typically, we deal with clients that have anywhere between the low thousands to about 100,000, businesses in their target market. We're definitely not talking millions here. So that's a really big difference. And also, I think another difference is the way you can reach out to these potential market. Obviously, there are tools that work way better for that, like LinkedIn, for instance, versus more mass media tools like Twitter and Facebook and those kinds of things. Yes. Instagram. So the tools you used, it's still digital marketing, right? But the specific tools that you use are pretty different. And also, I think one of the big differences for me, because I have my career, I spent a lot of time on the B2C side, now I'm on the B2B side, I've spent a lot of time on the corporate side, and now I'm on the agency side, is that B2B marketing is way closer to sales than it is in the B2C space. Yes. And so a lot of the marketing we do takes on almost like a business development or sales approach, yes. Which is quite a big difference. So there is still branding is still critical in the B2B space, but it expresses itself differently. The relationship you have with your customers are very different, and so in terms of not just in terms of quantity, but in terms of quality. The type of relationships you have, how you form these, and what the marketing to achieve that. Is. Yeah.
And again, one of the interesting things that I've noticed, or that I've learned in the sort of B2B space, is that you have to go back a few steps. So before you can have a successful B2B campaign, the first thing is really to get everyone to agree on what the message is. So do you find that as part of your discovery process, when you're talking to the C-level executives, if you put all of them in a room, let's say you've got 4 people on the board, I sort of pick up that in most cases, if you say, what does your company do, in other words, what is the key thing you want to get across, you'll get 4 different answers. So is that part of the challenge, first of all, is to try and get everyone on the same page?
Yeah, to a certain extent, typically we only deal with one point of contact because of the issues that you just talking about. But yeah, they have to do their own internal selling. But yeah, we spend a lot of time with our clients trying to define what their point of difference is. What exactly are the personas that they're talking to? So we define personas, right? Which is kind of a jargony term, but
Yeah.
you need to know who the gatekeeper
I think avatar is another great jargon word. that people-
yeah, but it's really important, especially in the B2B space, to really define, because for instance, if you're selling a piece of software, you might want to sell it to you might want to sell it to a CTO, you might want to sell it to a CRO, a chief revenue officer, it might be something for a CEO. So you really have to understand, and they might only be the people saying yes to the expense, but someone else down the food chain at that company might be the one actually making the decision as to whether you're a better fit for what they want versus your competitor, right? So defining those personas is super critical, and then you have to decide how you're going to talk to each of these different personas, and where and how. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, these are common threads. In other words, this concept of, first of all, define your customer, define the persona, define. Yeah. So it's not about the product, first of all, because I think everyone wants to stampede to the product first. Yeah. So, I mean, what sort of feedback do you get from your customers when you say, slow down, Turbo, let's figure out who you want to talk to first?
Yeah, so actually it's pretty well received in general, right? But we have some people who don't really understand why we're going through that exercise. I mean, we have to educate them as to why that's critical and important. So we don't get too much pushback overall. But yeah, it is something that's pretty critical, and that you need to get consensus on at the very beginning of a campaign, because otherwise you don't know it's going to be a big mess, and not going to be able to move forward efficiently and effectively. So yeah, pretty critical stuff.
The question was, who's going to win the World Cup? No, I mean that's the real question. That's what we really want to know.
Qatar in 2022. Well, obviously I'm going to be rooting for my team, but your team is pretty good too. So
yeah, I know. Let's just forget all this sort of marketing stuff. No, but I think the question really was. I think we can move on. I think you adequately answered. And my next question really is, what type of businesses? Is there a particular sector that you're focused on that you've developed some real expertise, or are you very much like a broad brush approach?
Yeah. So I personally believe, and I think it's been proven through my career, that digital marketing works for any kind of company, any kind of industry, and it's kind of a must-have at this point. It's a fully strategic type of endeavor that any company should be involved in. But for ourselves at Boomtime, because of our history and some of the people who started the company years ago, we're really strong in professional services. So think about CPA firms, legal firms, and things like that, and consulting firms and things like that, and also in the B2B tech space. So we deal with a lot of B2B companies that sell to other businesses, but where the technology is really, or what they're doing is really kind of difficult to understand, difficult to get across, and this is where we come into play, right? First, finding the right medium. Yes. To actually push those messages through, but also how to exactly talk about it, because these people typically, even lawyers, by the way, who are good at creating word and messaging and everything, it's very hard for them to figure out exactly how to talk about their business in an efficient way. And so we do a lot of that with our clients. Like, we create a lot of content and generate a lot of ideas on how to talk about these companies, so it resonates with our target market and it drives the right kind of leads.
And that's critical. So in other words, if we dig a little deeper, so your sort of core customer base, I mean, professional is very difficult, because you can't say that our accounting is better than your accounting, or my interpretation of the law is better than anyone else's, because that's not the selling point, is it? So I think that the challenge is really, how do you find the unique selling points? How do you find those points of leverage in industries that are by definition professional.
Yeah.
So in the sense, it's actually quite difficult to elicit those things that are important to separate.
So we do that. We spend a lot of time at the beginning of our campaigns talking with the stakeholders at our clients to really try to unearth points of difference. Sometimes it's in the history of the company, how it was founded and built. It might be in what they specialize in. It might be in some things that they do a little bit differently from other people. Of course, we're talking about marginal differences here, but those marginal differences can make overall a really big difference in how they're going to be perceived. And also the mere fact that they are doing marketing while a lot of their competitors are not doing marketing is a big plus, right? So very often that's one of the big selling points, where we can talk about anything as long as we're talking about something. Yes. But something that we focus a lot on, which usually is a big point of difference, is something that came out of a TED Talk about 10 years ago by a guy named Simon Sinek.
Yes.
And it's about the why, right? And it's a fabulous TED Talk. It's only 18 minutes, but it's like the best 18 minutes you'll spend if you haven't seen it. And he basically says, look, market leaders in any industry, they don't succeed and become leaders because they sell you on what they do or how they do it. They'll sell you on the why they do it.
Yes.
And we do that for ourselves at Boomtime, because we test a bunch of things on ourselves before we roll it out to our clients. But that's why we tell our clients, like, why are you doing what you're doing? This is what we're going to sell, right? And that leads to super interesting conversations, and usually enables us to unearth like kind of the little nuggets about it and say, oh, this is what we're going to talk about. This is what we're going to speak about. It's easier for B2B companies because, for tech companies, because obviously they have a specific technology. There's something different there by definition, and so we can talk about that. But yeah, for professional services, that's how usually we proceed and how we get to what we need to make the campaign successful.
And digital marketing, many different layers, many things. It's everything from this to that. I mean, it's but it's online. But what works best? In other words, how do you engage people in a B2B environment, bearing in mind your
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, because I think at last count there was like over 40 different types of digital marketing that you could do. So as you were saying, from this to that, but influencer marketing, PPC, pay per click, SEO, search engine optimization, content marketing, loyalty marketing. I mean, like on and on and on and on and on, right? So what we're good at, actually, our secret sauce is that we've done all of the above. We do all of the above. But we know how to get together different types of digital marketing, put them together in a holistic manner that makes sure that really creates some synergies and makes the campaign successful. So, but that and we've identified like several needs and challenges that most of our clients face, and so we've built packages around those. But they're gonna have to be slightly different for different clients and customers. And so what we do best, I think, is we listen to our clients. So they tell us what they do, why they do it, what the challenges are, and then we ask a lot of questions. And from that, we can say, okay, for this type of client in that industry with these challenges, this is the package that makes the most sense.
Yes. And again, I mean, you mentioned that there's, you talk about LinkedIn. So, I mean, LinkedIn doesn't work if you're trying to sell TV sets, for example.
Exactly, yeah. But if you're trying to sell consulting services to the oil and gas industry, it's fabulous.
Yes. But again, I mean, what's the approach? Because, just running ads on LinkedIn saying, guess what? We're the best CPA firm in the oil and gas industry. I mean, so there's this cadence, I think. And so this is like a two-part question. The first part is just to sort of describe that sequence or that the structure of the campaign, because and here's the other part of the question. Digital marketing is not just one thing, is it? It's not just an ad. It's you've got to almost be in all places at the same time, where one piece of digital marketing is reinforcing the other. So
exactly, yeah.
Can we dispel this fallacy that just having an ad, for example, checks the box of digital marketing?
Totally. So as I was saying, there's already 40 different types of digital marketing, and so that's why they work together synergistically. That's why we put them together like that, because there is no silver bullet. When you have 40 different types of digital marketing that you can do, there's obviously not one is not going to work, right? So we get a lot of clients that come to us and say, "Oh, we need to run a Google Ads campaign." And we're like, "Oh, hold on. First, what are you challenging?" Then we go through the process, right? But so typically, for instance, a typical campaign for us, like actually our biggest seller in terms of a package, is a package where we do take over, for instance, a LinkedIn profile for someone at the company. Like the figurehead could be a CEO, could be a president, could be the founder of the company or whatever, or sometimes the lead sales guy. So we do that, and we take over. We have our own proprietary LinkedIn tool that kind of automates a lot of the work, but we find the right targets by doing some very, very specific and refined advanced searches. Then we try to create those connections. We have a lot of expertise doing that by creating the right type of message with the right frequency and all of that. And then we use that. We create those connections. Our connection rate is really, really high. Yes. And so we managed to add more leads, basically. And then we can qualify those leads and then push them, if they want to, at a push of a button, into a CRM, a customer relationship management system.
Yes.
But then at the same time, in parallel with that, we create content for our clients, and we distribute that content on LinkedIn, but also via email. Yes. Email is a very powerful tool that's been around forever, so people tend to forget about email. But in digital marketing, it's literally year on year the highest ROI that you can get in digital marketing. It's email marketing. So we generate content. We have different types of email marketing sequencing that we use to get, whether it's a new lead or a lead that's been around for a while, and we communicate with them to get them, basically to nurture them throughout the process. At the same time, typically what we do is we take over a portion, or sometimes we actually design landing pages, or we redo a website for a client. We do that too. But when we do that, we install some lead capture tools that help keep growing that email marketing list and nurture those leads throughout that whole process. And our LinkedIn campaign not only creates the connections and leads, but also throughout makes the client look like more like thought leaders and in their industry. And we try to push those interactions on LinkedIn also to the website, so we can capture that email, that very precious email from a prospect. Because something that people might not realize, on LinkedIn, your connection list, you don't own that. That's LinkedIn's list. That's not yours. Your email marketing list is a huge asset, but you do own and control. So we try
you used to be able to download. Remember, you used to be able to download all of the email addresses of all of your thousands of connections.
Yeah, but it was a long time ago. So all these elements work together to create, a better image for the company, more content, capture, create leads, capture leads, nurture those leads, and so on. So it all works together. And it's something that actually takes obviously a little bit of time, right? Especially in the B2B space, your sales cycles might be pretty long. So there are leads that might not be ready today, but we have tools that keep you top of mind as a client with those leads. And if 3 months or 6 months from now they are ready, then you're still there in front of them. So this is where our campaigns are typically 6 months to a year.
And what sort of mistakes or what sort of howling errors do you come across, if you're coming in to sort of clean up and restart a campaign that, the previous marketing manager, the ex-marketing manager, was
that's another really good question. So the first one we talked about, right? It's like, I need to do a PPC campaign. Like, okay, no, that's not, you gotta, so a lot of time, the people we talk with don't have a really great sense of how digital marketing works. it's very daunting, right? Because we talked about it. It's a very complex universe, right? And they not necessarily know all the different types of digital marketing that you can do, what the pluses and minuses are, and all of that. So we do a lot of education, but what we ask them is, what we see a lot is thinking very narrow and not realizing the breadth of what can be done. Yes. Thinking that there is a silver bullet when there is no silver bullet, and also a lot of the time those people, they first a lack of knowledge, and it's also probably a lack of time, and they don't really take the time to really think through where their company is at, where their product service is at, how they compare the marketplace, what their point of difference is, why they do what they do, as we talked about. And that kind of that lack of self-awareness and not doing the homework, right, to be able to devise the right strategy is something that we see a lot of. The other thing we see a lot of is not setting KPIs, right? Yeah. So one of my old mentors used to say, to tell me, that was literally 20 plus years ago, it's like, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. And so a lot of our clients have that issue, right? And we educate them a lot, and we basically do it for them. But you have to set some KPIs for any kind of marketing campaign. Yes. Have a very clear objective, figure out what the numbers or what measurements are going to tell you whether you're on the right track or not. Yes. And then if you don't do that, you can do anything in marketing and have no idea whether it's working or not. So
it's like Henry Ford, I think, was it, who said that I know that half of my advertising works, I just don't know which half.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. But you mentioned earlier about this concept on LinkedIn of creating content that positions your client as thought leaders. Yeah. So my question is really, how important is content? So you've got the hammer where you're just flooding, with ads or stuff or clicks. But how important is content itself and what you say?
Yeah, so again, I think it's very important, especially in the B2B space, maybe less so in the B2C space. But think about it, a lot of these companies that we deal with have a very kind of, they might have a very obscure specialty, or they might have a very obscure technology, right? And they're trying to get that across. So you have to make sure that the people that they talk to, especially when they're like a new lead, right? There's someone that probably doesn't know much about them, that they feel comfortable with dealing with that company. So content can be a lot of different things, right? So we do videos, we do podcasts, we write our blog articles, but we write white papers for our clients, we do infographics, we do all this, but all these things basically are meant to really make people understand who that company is, what they do, why they do it, and all that. So and especially because of these long sales cycles typically, and also the fact that a client for a B2B company tends to have a really, really high CLV, customer lifetime value.
Yeah, value. Yes.
All of this goes together. Obviously, creating that content to differentiate our clients from their competitors and create that connection and that engagement with their target market is absolutely necessary.
And how important is the humanity behind those connections? Because, you're talking about professional services, where a lot of it is down to the ability of the people to provide the service as opposed to the things that they built. This concept of digital marketing dehumanizing that relationship. Yeah. And do you see a resurgence of video, or are you training people to communicate in a way that is, I hate to use the expression, but more vulnerable, more human? Is that something that's really important?
Absolutely. And this is actually what we tell our clients is like, a mistake that a lot of people make if they run their own LinkedIn, and if they're using LinkedIn as a marketing tool, for instance, I mean, it's just one example, is that they think that on LinkedIn you're talking to companies. You're not. It's a social network. You're talking to an individual that may represent a company, that may work for a company, but you're talking to people. And so our messaging on LinkedIn is very personable. It's very engaging. It's very soft sell. It's almost no sell. It's about creating the connection, right? Yes. And if you come all guns blazing and talk about business, whatever, to someone, you're not creating that connection. They're probably going to turn you down, even if it makes sense for them to connect with you. So we spend a lot of time on that. And also, honestly, those relationships, those connections, like personalization of your messaging and whatever is what one is going to separate you from your competitors, because they might not be doing it right, and also it's part of your brand, and branding is still really critical in B2B marketing. For B2B companies, because and your branding is not just your logo and your colors and your typeface, right? It's how you talk, how you interact with your customers, how you service those customers after they become customers, and so on. There is a lot of elements to branding that, and how you talk to these people on whether it's on LinkedIn, in your emails, or anywhere else, is really, really critical, and it can really make a huge difference.
Yeah, I can see that, and also, a lot of people that I've come across will try and hide behind this corporate identity, which is the logos, the corporate speak, the corporate brochure, the website, and as individuals they hide away. They don't realize, I think, that actually the success of their business depends on their ability to communicate, their ability to put themselves in front of their business and be the face or the voice.
And
is that something that you would agree with?
Oh, totally, yeah, and we help all our clients with that kind of stuff. Sometimes it also comes down to picking the right person to be the face of the company on LinkedIn, for instance, or in some other places. And so, yeah, it doesn't always have to be the CEO, right? It could be someone else. It could be the lead scientist, for instance, if it's a company that's in some kind of...
But why? People naturally, I think, are afraid of doing that, though, even though it's their business. These sort of entrepreneurs that have built these businesses, they, in many cases will be like shrinking violets when it comes to, PR. But
and that's how we do it for them, right? I mean, we basically become their voice, and we shape their voice with, obviously working closely with them. We shape that, and we spend a lot of time thinking about the tone and how we're going to approach this and how we're going to talk about things and whatnot, and it works. I mean, look, because we do all the work for them, even if they are the type of shrinking violet that you were talking about, because we do it for them, it makes it much easier for them. They don't have to worry about anything except saying, oh, this is a good lead or this is not a good lead. So.
And again, so if you were to sort of summarize the real connection in B2B marketing, it's actually people, isn't it? It's not, it's still that mano a mano, but done digitally, I suppose. Yeah,
pretty much. But at least the kind of businesses that we specialize in helping, that's exactly it. That's it has to be very personable. Typically, we deal with the president or CEO of a company, or a founder, or the managing partner if it's a law firm or something like that. And these people, that's they're a lot of they're basically becoming the face of the company, a real face, right, and a real voice for the company, and that works incredibly well.
And if we were talking about metrics, so you've got various metrics. You've got you've got how many clicks, how many opens, how many downloads, how many email addresses. What would you say are the critical KPIs? Is it what are the things that you're really looking for in a campaign that indicates that this is actually going to be a successful campaign?
Yeah. Well, again, it sounds a little bit wishy-washy, but it depends, right? It depends on the campaign.
Speak like a true...
It depends on your objective. I'm speaking like a lawyer here.
Yes.
We have a lot of your lawyer clients, so I know how we deal with that kind of stuff. But it's true, though. I mean, there's going to be different KPIs for different campaigns and different companies, and even the same campaign, the same type of campaign for different companies will have different KPIs, because they might have different challenges or different objectives. But typically, what we look at a lot, clicks are not very important. It's more about the engagement. So for how many people engage with the content that we put out for you. And also, ultimately, it's all about a cost per lead or cost per conversion.
Yes.
And so that's why we measure all of that very intensively, because that's what's going to really, in the end, going to give you the right idea of whether something is working or not.
And again, in the absence of LinkedIn, if we were to strip that out of the equation, what would be your next best, or what are you working on that may supersede? Because the problem with these platforms is if you build your business on a third-party platform like Facebook, they change their algorithms every third Tuesday almost.
Yeah.
You know, how do you protect against something outside of your control like that?
Yeah, so this is why our we said there's no more silver bullets. There's only you need to use a lot of lead bullets,
Yes.
right? Not just one silver bullet. That's why our packages are meant. So if something we might have a campaign where LinkedIn actually doesn't work very well, right? And so we'll switch. We can do Google Ads. We can do spend more time on SEO,
Yeah.
and so on. So there are enough tools in the digital marketing arsenal or quiver that so you can pick actually what works and what doesn't work. And the beauty of digital marketing is that you can try something, and then if it doesn't work, you can switch to something else.
And it's almost instant gratification, isn't it? Because you get that instant sort of feedback.
Very, very quickly. Yeah, exactly. So for instance, for some companies, some clients we're actually using Facebook instead of LinkedIn because it works better for them. Although not our favorite tool, but in some cases it works better. So this is why we avoid putting all our eggs in one basket for any of our clients, and use multiple tools in this holistic manner that I described to make sure that if something doesn't work or something disappears, right, which can happen too in the digital space, that you still have something in place that's going to work.
Is there a particular tool other than your own software that you would recommend, or something that has really impressed you in terms of giving you access or insight into what's actually happening with your campaign?
So unfortunately there is no, again, because there are so many different types of digital marketing, there is no single tool, right, that can be correct. But we are huge fans of Google Analytics,
yes,
because
absolutely.
it ties to so many different things,
Yes.
and it works really, really well, and it's free, which is nice. But so it's kind of, there are very few tools that really kind of give you the full picture. But we use also tools like SEMrush, which is which actually cuts across, is specifically about SEO.
Yes.
That helps you with SEM, search engine marketing, and also is really good at social media tracking, and also does a lot of what Google Analytics does. It's not cheap, but it's really powerful, and we do a lot of we use SEMrush a lot for content marketing, for instance, because we can do searches about what keywords resonate with the target market we have, and so on. So we can build our content and around those keywords that we know are going to resonate with the target.
And the important thing really with all of this is it is a science. It's not an abstract art. It's a science that is based on trial, error, information, results,
and measurement. Yeah, exactly. That's why So when we tell our clients that we use SEO tools to create the best content possible and look at all the analytics after we create the content to make sure that we're on the right track, they're like, what? Analytics for content? Like, yes, analytics for content. It's critical.
Yes, that's fantastic. Well, again, I mean, it's some really interesting points of view there, actually. I'm going to switch gears now, so I'm going to move across to my fabulous 10 questionnaire. 10 questions, which I actually stole from someone else, so that's why it's so fabulous.
Okay.
I mean, borrowed. I mean, they can have it back at any point.
Yeah.
So hopefully this has caught you on the hop and you weren't expecting this.
How was that?
That's good. So JP, are you ready? Fasten your safety belts.
Okay.
For the Hooked on Startups quickfire questionnaire, drum roll in the background. Question number 1. What is your favorite word?
Oh my God. Analytics.
And question number 2. What is your least favorite word?
Guess.
the antithesis of analytics. Yeah. Question number 3. What are you most excited about right now?
Marketing wise?
Anyways.
Yeah, anyways. I'm very excited about the new marketing products we're embedding in our proprietary software. And we're going to roll them out probably beginning of next year. And a lot of work involved, but super excited about that. I think it's going to be a game changer for us, and also, position us as real innovators in the digital marketing space.
And question number 4, what turns you off right now?
I don't know. A lot of things. I have a lot of pet peeves, but I don't know. I mean, I really don't like this. What's happening in digital marketing with all these like shiny new objects, right? And people are like, oh my god, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, without thinking through, what's gonna work, why it's gonna work, and all of that. That's really one of my big pet peeves.
And next question, number 5. What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, my kids laughing.
And number 6, what sound or noise do you hate?
My kids crying.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. And number 7, and you may plead the 5th Amendment. Somehow I don't think you will. What is your favorite curse word?
It's not safe for work. But being French, where our curse words just don't have the same impact as English curse words, it starts with an F, it ends with a K, and I have been told that I'm using it a little bit too much.
Well, that's fine, which is, I think, the most, there are all sorts of studies that prove that people that swear are more intelligent, more engaged, all that sort of stuff. So I think I should add links to that in my podcast. Yes. I think. Question number 8: what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Actually, well, I can't do it now. I'm a bit too old, but I would have. My dream was to be a Formula One driver.
Ah. Fantastic. Yes.
But if I had to try something today, I would probably try to be a lawyer.
I can see the similarities. There's that intense synergy between Formula One riding and being a lawyer.
I know. See?
Yes.
I'm multifaceted, just like digital marketing.
Exactly. Question number 9 then. So what profession would you not like to attempt?
Anything having to do with plumbing.
It's funny. Right now, at home, we have a plumber in the house with a snake and a camera trying to unblock something that shouldn't be blocked.
Exactly. So that's the only thing I don't do by myself. I mean, I don't try to tackle by myself in my house is plumbing. I just sorry.
Because when it goes wrong, it goes horribly wrong. So we do leave that to pressure. And understood. So my final question then, JP, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Wow.
That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. I said, you're a good man.
That'll do. Or the bar is open, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be my favourite, yeah.
Here's your Formula One seat.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yes. JP, it's been such a pleasure having you on. So tell me, how can people find out more about what you're up to and about you and Boomtime and all of this great advice that you can give to people?
Yeah, so we're big on education at Boomtime. That's actually one of our core values. We educate not only people within the company, but also our clients or even people who are not going to be our clients. We love to educate, and because this digital marketing world is really critical. So we have a lot of content on our website. We have probably the equivalent of several books worth of content on our website, and podcasts and videos and things like that. So boomtime.com, boomtime.com. And as for myself, the best way to find me is on LinkedIn.
Yes, funny enough, yeah.
It's linkedin.com/in/JP Clement.
Fantastic. It's been such a pleasure having you on, and thank you for all of the advice and insight that you've given us, and very much looking forward to staying in touch and getting stuck into all of that information on your website.
Great, thanks, Matthew. Thanks for having me.
You are listening to Hooked on Startups, where every week you'll hear from some of the most talented, inspiring, and successful entrepreneurs who share their real-life stories, how they overcame challenges and failures, and how they mastered success. Get ready for some of the best business tips, tricks and tactics, and some frank, unscripted discussions. Here's your host, Matthew Sullivan.